Currently, Earth.
It was February 25th in the year 1870 that the first African American congressman was sworn in. Hiram R, Revels, a Republican from Natchez, Mississippi, is sworn into the U.S. Senate, becoming the first African American ever to sit in Congress. During the Civil War, Revels, a college-educated minister, helped form African American Army regiments for the Union cause, started a school for freedmen, and served as a chaplain for the Union Army. Posted to Mississippi, Revels remained in the former Confederate state after the war and entered into the Reconstruction era Southern politics. In 1867, the first Reconstruction Act was passed by Congress, dividing the South into 5 military districts and granting suffrage to all male citizens regardless of race. A politically mobilized African American community joined with white allies in the southern states to elect the Republican Party to power, which in turn brought about radical changes across the South. By 1870, all the former Confederate states had been readmitted to the Union, and most were controlled by the Republican Party, thanks in large part to the support of African American voters. On January 20th in 1870, Hiram R. Revels was elected by the Mississippi legislature to fill the Senate seat once held by Jefferson Davis, the former president of the Confederacy. On February 25th, 2 days after Mississippi was granted representation in Congress for the first time since it seceded in 1861, Revels was sworn in. Although African American Republicans never obtained political office in proportion to their overwhelming electoral majority, Revels and some 15 other African American men served in Congress during Reconstruction. More than 600 served in state legislatures, and hundreds of African Americans held local offices. It was February 25th in the year 1940 that the first telecast of a National Hockey League is transmitted over New York's W2XBS. The National Broadcasting Company's experimental station used to test TV technology. A viewing audience estimated at 300 subscribers watches the New York Rangers defeat the Montreal Canadiens 6-2 at Madison Square Garden. During the first crude telecast, winger Phil Watson registered 4 points, all assists, and Brian Hextall Sr. scored 2 goals for the Rangers. The NHL TV broadcast came a year after the first televised Major League Baseball, college football, and pro football games. The first World Series game was televised in 1947. Like the first NHL broadcast, it was flawed. Sunlight and shadows obscured the view of NBC cameras, and the network's new and cumbersome equipment broke down. In 1940, radio was by far the dominant broadcasting medium. Television use grew slowly over the decade. By 1949, the nation boasted 1 million TV sets in use. By the 1950s, television had entered the mainstream, with more than half of all American homes owning TV sets by 1955. As the number of consumers expanded, new stations were created and more programs broadcast. Since the first televised NHL game, the importance of television has exponentially increased for the league. In 2021, the league announced multi-million-dollar deals with ESPN and Turner Sports to broadcast games. It was February 25th in the year 1949 that actor Robert Mitchum is released after serving time for marijuana possession. Actor Robert Mitchum is released from a Los Angeles County prison farm after spending the final week of his 2-month sentence for marijuana possession there. In the fall of 1948, Mitchum, the star of classics such as Cape Fear and Night of the Hunter, was smoking a joint at a small party in the Laurel Canyon area of Los Angeles when detectives burst in and arrested him. Mitchum reportedly said at the time, quote, "Well, this is the bitter end of everything. My career, my marriage, everything," unquote. In fact, it wasn't really that bad. Mitchum was separated from his wife, Dorothy, at the time, but the two reconciled when she returned to support him through the scandal. And the public didn't mind much either. Rachel and the Stranger, the first movie released after his troubles, was a box office hit. There is reason to believe that Mitchum's arrest was less than fair and designed to bring publicity to the LAPD's anti-drug efforts. Although high-priced studio lawyers questioned irregularities in the case, it was later agreed that Mitchum would accept 60 days in jail and several years probation. Robert Mitchum continued his eternity in July of 1997.